Yeah, I think if you just personalize for the sake of personalizing just to say something, then you're doing it wrong. And a lot of people can see through it.
It's the only metric that matters. Open rates are bullshit. Click rates are bullshit. All of your spam checkers, all of your email tools do that automatically.
If you're a website company, send them a website audit or a Loom video, right? Or a competitor analysis or something along the sort.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bridge the Gap podcast powered by Revenue Reimagined. This is a road show episode. You'll notice different backgrounds. Dale and I are in California. I'm sitting in the lobby of a hotel. Dale's in the room, different room. We're not in the same room, but Dale is in his room. But nonetheless, today's guest is AJ Cassata, who is the co-founder and CEO of Revenue Boost, where he has helped more than 440 agencies and SaaS companies grow using LinkedIn, cold email, and omni-channel outbound systems. Yes, we're going to talk about outbound. It is not broken, as everyone likes to say. AJ's frameworks have been featured on Founder, Digital Marketer, and AdWorld, and his clients have generated millions in pipeline by focusing on one thing, outbound that actually converts. No spam cannons here, y'all. Outbound that actually converts. This episode is going to be about simplifying sales growth, how to build a repeatable outbound engine, balance automation with authenticity, and scale revenue without burning out your team. And AJ just happens to have the coolest name because his initials match my name. So we had to have him on the show. AJ, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey AJ, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Adam was not as loud as he usually is, so you won't be able to use that intro as we walk out, just because he's in the middle
There's
of a lobby.
people
But
here.
it was okay. It's like a 7 out of 10. So we may have to record another
Well, let's
episode.
redo it.
So AJ, let's dive in. Outbound that actually works. Like we hear all the time, outbound's dead. It is very difficult, but you've helped 400 companies fix outbound. What's the biggest misconception teams have about lead generation today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you can just basically take one email template, load up a list of 20,000 contacts, and just fill your calendar with meetings. And honestly, a lot of people think that because that really did work well like 2 to 3 years ago. And I think I sent my first cold email maybe 7 years ago. And I think it gave everyone like a very false expectation of how that channel should work if you've been doing it for that long. But really, it's just not that easy anymore. I would say it's definitely gotten harder, but it's still very, very viable. It's just gotten, I don't want to say saturated because I think people think saturated is a bad thing, but saturated to me is a good thing because it means if a lot of people are doing it, it's because it works and it makes money. It just means now you have to approach it a lot differently and really focus on like standing out in the inbox, right? And we can talk about that, what that means, but it's definitely not just, spray and pray approach anymore. One template to 10,000 people. That still works if you really have like some amazing product market fit, or if you're targeting a niche or an ICP that's just not very, like does just isn't cold emailed a lot, right? Like we had one client that was targeting real estate appraisers, and like one client over all the years I've been doing this target real estate appraisers. So just because that's an industry that doesn't really get prospected a lot, it just worked really well. We didn't really have to try very hard on the copy or the personalization or segmentation, any of that. So, but other than that, unless you're in one of those scenarios, you really have to be a lot more thoughtful and creative with your campaigns, just because everyone's doing it nowadays.
So
Yeah,
I
100%.
think that's a great point. Everyone is doing that. And everyone also, one of the things I see is structuring their emails exactly the same, right? I was talking to a
Me,
sales leader about this yesterday that regardless of how relevant the email might be, and listen, relevance is, in my opinion, one of, if not the most important thing. When you're all following the same, 50 words or less, short sentences, pain, problem, et cetera, I think we're all desensitized now to, oh, just another cold email and I'm going to delete it. How do you
yeah.
get around that?
Yeah, definitely. So we like to try pattern interrupts, just completely different, types of copy. We still always will run those, 50 to 60 word emails as well, but we just try to like one thing I try to do is I always read every cold email I get. Which nowadays it's quite a lot of them, right? But I try to just get a sense for like what everyone else is saying so that I can make sure when we're writing copy, it's not exactly that, right? But anything you can do just to stand out or be different. Like nowadays, we're even trying more longer emails, even though that's like historically what we've never done. Just something to just not look like everything else. Cause like it's exactly what you said. People have that mental filter of like, oh, another cold email, let me delete it. So like, yeah, we've tried to use the humor in some. We also do a lot of lead magnets, just giving free value rather than asking for the meeting right away. But ultimately, you have to have some kind of way of just breaking the mold, and that's why I always say the first thing you should do is start reading the cold emails you get, so you have a sense for it, and you don't say the same thing everyone else is saying. And also, I think it's even getting more like everyone's doing the same thing nowadays just because of AI. So if you go to ChatGPT and say, write me a cold email, it's going to write you the same cold email it's writing for everyone else because it's scraping blog posts of other B2B sales leaders that have shared their cold email templates, and everyone's sharing their templates on LinkedIn, et cetera. Right. So 100% of doing the same thing.
How many of the cold emails you get, and I probably get, I don't know, 10 to 15 a day. How many would you say are good? And when I say good, like if you were in the need for that product, that you would at least respond. What percentage are good cold emails?
Yeah, I would say like definitely less than 20%, maybe 10 or 20%. And then also there's probably even 10 times more that are in my spam folder. So if you really think about it, it's probably like 1%, right? Um, but
Yeah,
they have
I'm
been
always
getting a little
amazed.
better.
I'm always amazed when I go to clean up my spam folder, the volume in there that never even makes it to me.
Yeah, I feel bad when I see it. I'm like, all these people are just talking about
All of
themselves.
Dale's emails somehow go to the spam folder. I don't know.
100%. No wonder why he never gets back to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of them though, and I think it's just because of like what we said. Everyone's doing it, and everyone's following the same playbook, right? They go buy a course, they go look at what other people are posting on LinkedIn, they ask ChatGPT, and that's really like everyone's circling around the same templates, right? Um,
So, what are the key signals or metrics that tell you your outbound truly working, like, or that's repeatable? What are those metrics? Because everyone's like, "Oh, open rates," right? That's not a good
yeah, there's
metric.
really only one metric we like my team and I really measure for our clients, and it's how many contacts per positive reply. That to me is like the
Yes.
truest metric, right? Um,
It's the only metric that matters. Open rates are bullshit. Click rates are bullshit. All of your spam checkers, all of your email tools do that automatically. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like you hit the nail on the head. I think it's Apple Mail opens every email for you. So you're seeing you're getting 80% open rates. You're probably getting like 30%. Um, we still kind of will look at it a little bit for deliverability because if we see that there's like a 5% open rate, well then we know that something's completely like awful, right? With our deliverability, but everything else is pretty much just a measure of deliverability. Like a reply rate, reply rate is okay to measure, but it's really just to tell us if people are replying, then we know that we're not landing in spam, right? So, all the metrics we just use to look to see if we're actually bypassing spam and if everything's okay with our technical setup. But other than that, the actual performance is just one lead per positive reply, usually every 300 or so. We've measured this across a lot of industries, and we found one lead per 300 to be pretty much like the average, I would say. And that's just for cold email, and that's just for doing more of like a high volume cold email to small businesses or mid market. If you're doing like enterprise outreach and like very targeted, then that would be a little bit different. Or if you're doing multi channel, but most of our clients we're just doing high volume SMB mid market cold email, and 1 in 300 is pretty much our KPI.
So let's shift gears a little from cold email. We all know that you can't just have one system that you use and hope that your emails or your phone calls or your LinkedIn's are going to convert. The best way to drive top of funnel, in my opinion, is through an omni-channel approach. And you call Revenue Boost an omni-channel lead generation system. How do, in the clients you're working with and your strategies, AJ, how do LinkedIn, cold email, automation, how does all of that fit together effectively? Like, where do you start?
Yeah, for sure. So we blend together LinkedIn and cold email, and usually take kind of a different approach on each channel. So with LinkedIn, you only can message 100 people a week without getting blocked by LinkedIn's limitation and risking your account, right? Whereas with cold email, you have pretty much like unlimited scale. Um, so what we do is, we'll look at a client's TAM and we'll try to identify the top 5% of accounts, whether it's by company size or similarity to some of their best clients or case studies, or maybe just intent signals like companies that just got funding or companies that are currently hiring for jobs related to whatever their tool is. We'll typically take the best accounts and then go for that very targeted LinkedIn outreach. Because LinkedIn, you'll see like 10-20% response rates, where cold email, like 1%, 2% is pretty standard, right? So we'll essentially take the best accounts from their TAM, reach out to them on LinkedIn, and have that be sequenced with not just pitching, but also commenting, liking, following them, profile visits, etc., to kind of warm them up. And then first step is a LinkedIn connect, second step is a LinkedIn message. If that hasn't replied, then email and etc. So we'll always go LinkedIn email just because you might actually have the right accounts on LinkedIn, but not everyone uses LinkedIn or not everyone logs in like every day or even every week. And then from there, once we have the best accounts with that omni-channel approach, and we've maxed out their LinkedIn accounts, then we'll take the rest of the TAM and go for a more automated automated cold email approach. And we'll still use personalization there. So we're using a lot of AI, and maybe you guys are familiar with Clay as a way to make those high volume emails still sound very curated and personalized, and still kind of break through the noise. So happy to dive into that as well.
So you guys leverage Clay underneath the covers on some of the stuff that you're delivering?
Yeah, Clay is like pretty central for our agency. I think it definitely like I hear the complaint from a lot of people that there's a huge learning curve, which there definitely is. But it's kind of like I remember when I first started using it for the first 3 months, I was just frustrated with it. But then there was a point where I was like, oh, now I get it. Now I see all the things I can do. And it can really do a lot. But the thing we use it for the most is just personalizing outreach and also qualifying leads. So really, like we just, you can have you can have a list of 100,000 leads and have Clay in there to filter for who might the best leads be. You can score them. You can check if they're B2B or versus B2C, or let's say you sell to e-commerce companies and your best clients are e-commerce companies that have a subscription um, type service, like a subscription box or something, right? There's really no other way to tell that other than manual research, unless you're using AI agents to qualify that. So your Clay just makes it really easy to kind of cull your lead list and also actually personalize the messaging based on whatever you've had its agents research about the company. So we do a lot of personalization, not just because it stands out, but also it helps with deliverability. Because when you're sending the same email over and over again, then that's what gets Google and Outlook to put you on their naughty list, right? So just the dynamic content helps a lot too with breaking through.
Where do you see most teams waste time or money when they're trying to go omni-channel?
Like just wasting time and money with their campaigns, or like barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, just anywhere. Where do you see them waste the most time and money in that place? Like, is it, they're just spamming the same email, they're not doing calls, like, they say they have an omni-channel approach, and we see this a lot with our clients. They're like, "Yeah, we'll do that," but they'll do, like, 80%
Yeah.
email, like, 10% calls, and, like, 10% LinkedIn.
Yeah, really good question. I think the biggest time waster is people that are doing email, but they're still doing too much manual effort around email, like manual list building, manual emails, even manual personalization at this point. So, like for most of our clients, email is the majority of the focus, but it's not the majority of the time spent because it's the most easy to. It's like the easiest to automate, right? Like we're not really at the point where you can automate cold calls. I know that there's like these AI callers, but I
They
don't
all
really see
suck.
that. They all suck. Exactly. That's been my experience too. And I don't think it's legal. I'm pretty sure it's still, like, not really allowed to just outbound cold call people with a robot. Um, yeah, like, to me, there's still too many companies that are having their sales reps pull lists and send out emails one by one or personalize them. And, again, if you're doing SMB, mid-market, outbound email, you should automate everything up until a lead comes in, and then you actually like, we still have a human at that point take over to move them
How
to an
how
appointment.
how do you do that and still be personalized? Or is personalization the scam that we don't really need? Because the typical way that I hear or see of people using Play is certainly using it for list building and enrichment, which I think is probably the number one most important use case. To your point, no person should be manually building a list and manually enriching unless we're double, triple checking things in an enterprise market and using some sales nav filters, et cetera, et cetera. But by and large, I agree with you. But then where I'm seeing Clay is going in and putting, the same bullshit, you know, value prop, fake personalization. Hey AJ, I see you have the same initials as me, blah blah, hey AJ, I see that you went to, University of Miami. That is not personalization. Is personalization needed this day and age? People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results. Just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I can tell you, no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com.
I would say it's definitely not needed, but it's enhancer. And then there's definitely a right way to do it and a wrong way. Because yeah, it's funny. Like we talked about earlier, looking at cold emails you received to see how you can write better ones yourself. And after Clay became popular, I started to also see the same emails in my inbox, like the same templated, LLM written first lines. And yeah, hey, I saw you went to college here. Or one I see a lot is they'll like call it a restaurant in my town, which is kind of cool. But then I see everyone doing it, and they're like, "Oh, have you been to this restaurant in my hometown or whatever?" And they're like, "I love the steak there." And I'm like, "You definitely haven't eaten the steak there. I grew up in a small town of like 2,000 people. You probably haven't been there. No one's been there." It's kind of funny though. It's like novel. It usually catches my attention at least. But yeah, I think if you just personalize for the sake of personalizing just to say something, then you're doing it wrong. And a lot of people can see through it. And if you do too much of it, the thing is AI is always going to hallucinate a little bit. So if you do too much personalization, you're just creating more opportunities for AI to say something wrong that just makes you look
To
bad.
break
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Um,
AJ, a lot of our clients are founders, doing their own sales. What's the most common mistake, when they're trying to scale outbound?
yeah, I would say. So you mean like a solo founder and they're founder-led sales and they're trying to build in subs?
Or yeah, I mean, we've hit some that, they've gone from 0 to 1.5 million ARR. Now they're trying to, like, hire a team and scale, or, they're resetting everything and they're rebuilding sales team, but they hadn't done outbound motion. All of a sudden, they're trying to do outbound. Uh, what's the most common mistakes people are making in that
I
space?
think one of the most common mistakes I see is definitely not testing enough. Like when we're running cold email campaigns, we might test 30 different campaigns in the first few months. And we're just measuring that metric
Wow. Okay.
of how many leads am I getting per positive reply. Because again, like we all know years ago, you could just have one campaign and people didn't receive a lot of cold emails. So you could just get lucky on the first try. But I think people underestimate how much testing and how scientific you need to be around testing lists, testing job titles, company types, whatever you can play around with there and just testing a lot of copy. Because when you're building your outbound motion from scratch, like you mentioned, or maybe you've done a little bit before, like most founder-led sales teams are usually getting most of their leads originally from inbound or maybe referrals or their network or they go to events. But once you shift to outbound, like a lot of times you don't actually know what messaging is going to work, and you're really having to reinvent that because you don't know what's going to work with a cold audience, right? So a lot of times the messaging you might have for your warm audience is very different than when you're reaching out to a stranger who doesn't know you, doesn't trust you, and isn't looking for what you sell. And often you're trying to maybe position your offer in a different way where you're trying to create demand versus kind of capture that inbound demand, right? So it's kind of like the messaging changes as you're talking to people up the funnel who are problem aware, but not yet already solution aware and looking for what you sell. And the only way you figure that out, like, yeah, of course you can do customer interviews. That's always very useful. But to me, the best thing is just doing a lot of testing and just really reading the data to see what's actually bringing me the most leads per every 500 emails I send, right? So what I would do is I would take like especially if you're building it from scratch, like you mentioned, I would take my offer. I would even just plug it into ChatGPT or Claude and say, "Hey, write me 30 different value propositions. Maybe some focusing on pain, some focusing on social proof, some focusing on benefits, some focusing on explaining how it works, some focusing on keeping it vague and talking about the outcome, and just have a lot of different ways of explaining and positioning your offer, and then just get that out there into like the tools nowadays make it really easy to A/B test and read the data to see what's working or not. But I think that's one thing I very rarely see when I'm auditing someone else's campaigns.
So you talk about tools, and I want to get back to that in a second. Is there a need in today's sales org to have an outbound team? So historically, right, you have a team of whatever, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 100 BDRs that all log into Outreach or Sales Loft or whatever tool has ruined outbound for all of us. And they go in and they send their outbound and they cold call all day. Like, what does the modern go to market outbound team look like?
Yeah, I would say so. Starting first with as much automation as possible, because you can get quite far. Like maybe you guys have seen, there's like a new role that's become popular, the GTM engineer, right?
Engineer. Yep.
Yeah. So someone that can build the list, orchestrate the campaigns, automate the cold email, automate the email, etc. I think the biggest leverage you'll get if you're not doing any outbound and you're building this org out, best leverage you'll get is just by having that automated outbound and doing it in a very smart, intelligent way where you're still having high quality lists, you're still segmenting them, and you're still doing smart personalization, which we can talk about some examples as well. But that's going to be the best leverage because typically one person who's running outbound campaigns at scale, maybe sending 10, 20, 30,000 emails a month, um, that can usually get more than like a couple SDRs, right? Where I see SDRs coming in is really to work. Best case is SDRs are working warm leads. They're doing ABM outreach, right? Like working the highest quality accounts with that cold call, LinkedIn, email follow up, right? And then nowadays, I even think SDRs should be doing some more content and actually building a little bit more of a personal brand because LinkedIn just becomes such a powerful tool nowadays, right? Like I've seen a lot of companies in my industry where they have their whole sales team actually start to become like mini thought leaders on LinkedIn, which I think is really, really cool. But basically, yeah, automate as much as you can to get that first contact. and then have SDRs just work the warm leads and focus more on nurturing them from that point, as well as creating new top of funnel, but more from the, enterprise or ABM outreach, and so on.
So I agree. I think that the whole team has to be shifted, right? We have to have the right people in the right role doing the right task. We talk about GTM engineer a lot. I think it is an overused term, but an important role. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the term, but I definitely think what that role does is super important versus the traditional, role that we had. I think when you have too many teams playing in these systems, like I don't want every BDR in Clay, right? I don't want every BDR in whatever my cold email tool is. I want one person setting that up, and I want that information then coming back into whatever the system of record is that I have my BDRs in. When we talk about tools, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, there's a lot of outbound tools right now, right? You have Clay, which I think everyone's using. There's Freckle, which is trying to come in and take over Clay. But you have Lemlist, you have Smart Lead, you have Instantly, there's no shortage of them. Talk to me about the best tech stack.
Yeah, there are so many tools, and we've tried all of them, or definitely all the main ones. Yeah, we always try to. Whenever there's a new tool that comes out, we always like to test it because if it can help us get a even like a 5% edge in our campaigns, right? It's worth it. Um, but I'll just talk about what we use. We use Instantly for our sending and just for our email warming. I've been using them just since they launched, and honestly, I think Instantly, Smartly, Lemlist, they're all quite similar. Like they're not really doing anything magically different. Like at the end of the day, they're connecting you to email accounts and sending them, right? So they all have their different, slight nuances, but I don't think you can really go wrong if you use any of those when it comes to sending. Instantly is our favorite though, just because it's definitely has the most features in terms of deliverability, which I think whatever tool is going to be on top of that is just going to be the most powerful tool. Like that's what these tools need to be focusing on because that's only going to get harder. And also, I think it's just the easiest to use. Like I could show someone in an hour how to use it, build a list, set up campaigns, send out emails, right? So if you ideally you don't have SDRs in there, but if you do, at least it's something they could learn in like half an hour or an hour. So
And are
it's,
you tying Instantly back to the CRM, whether that be Salesforce or HubSpot, to get that data in there for the SDRs? How do you bring it full circle when you start adding in things like LinkedIn and cold calling and making sure that these SDRs or VDRs are effective?
yeah, that's where it gets tricky, right? Because instantly is also just cold email. So when we're doing omnichannel, we need something else for that, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, bring everything back to our CRM. We use Go High Level, but we have clients with HubSpot and Salesforce and all that. Um, Basically, yeah.
Go
Once
high level.
Go high
I've
level is really like
never heard of it.
yeah, it's like a marketing campaign program with a bunch of they use it as a CRM, but it's like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's like newer, but I guess newer and maybe
Uh,
started 5 years
hi,
ago, but it's already I think it's had $1 billion, but it just came onto the scene
yeah.
and grew like really quickly. But it's more
I,
popular in like
I,
the
I, I thought it was just called high level. KD, Kevin Dorsey talks about this one a lot. I didn't realize it was the same one.
yeah.
Super cool.
It actually might be called High Level. They changed their name, I think, and I might be
Hmm.
getting it wrong. But
I have a browser tab for them open and like I haven't looked at it in like a month and a half, but
yeah,
glad
there
to
you
hear
go.
it works.
It's good. Yeah, it's kind of more marketing friendly. So like you can build funnels
Sure.
and landing pages and like schedule social media posts. So it has more like marketing functionality than being like a true just sales CRM. But its CRM is also good too. But yeah, when we have clients that also work in HubSpot and whatnot, and we just have everything once someone's become a lead instantly and they've just reply positively, then everything pushes to the CRM. And then ideally from that point, an SDR is working it. So, yeah, the best case is SDRs are maybe calling the open leads as well as the positive replies. That's really where we want to use uh use them.
Nice. I love it. So Outbound, I think, is going to continue to change, right? There's so many AI tools out there. There's so many ways to do data enrichment, personalization, automation. And I think we're already seeing teams shrink down. We're seeing a big focus on AI. When you look at the next, call it 12 to 24 months, where do you think that's going? What's going to get more automated versus what's going to get pulled back into the spectrum of more manual,
Yeah,
if
really good
anything?
question. Yeah, definitely. I think definitely cold calling is going to become more and more valuable, and I guess like maybe even more of a maybe now it's even more of a rare skill than it was a couple years ago because I think as it became much more easy to automate all of your outbound, then a lot of people are like, okay, cool, that's an excuse to not be on the not be on the phone anymore, right? So I think that's never really going to change and never really going to go away. I mean, I think maybe who knows, maybe robocallers eventually becomes a thing. I don't really see it happening that way, and I think definitely not in like more sophisticated markets. Like I would never talk to an AI that called me. Um, but who knows? Who knows what could happen in 10, 20 years, right? Not yet. Yeah. Um, yeah, maybe in the current day and age, but I can always tell. But I don't know. I haven't seen some recent examples of where you can like barely tell, and it is pretty scary. But yeah, I think cold calling will definitely make more of a comeback. I think in terms of email, LinkedIn, all these channels, I think it's definitely. I have seen the cold emails I received get a little bit better recently. So I think more people are becoming aware of these tools like Clay and how they can personalize in a better way. Um, but that just gonna means that it's gonna take that much more effort then to be creative and stand out and be different and just really try like very different things in the email inbox. Like one thing we're doing a lot this past 6 months or so is just lead magnets and free value. And I don't just mean like here's a PDF or here's an ebook, but actually doing something for the client. Like if you're a website company, send them a website audit or a Loom video, right? Or a competitor analysis or something along the sorts, right? Um, and if you just give free value, like that's one thing that'll always help stand out because most people aren't willing to do that, right? And no matter what you are, like no matter what kind of company you are, you can always give something away up front for free. Usually it's like the first step of your process, or like everyone can at least share insights or like analyze someone's business and share, hey, here's 3 ways I think I can help you, right? But that's one thing we found to work really well because I very rarely receive lead magnets or at least good ones. And with everything that's going to change with tech and AI and automation, one thing that won't change is people always love free stuff, right? And that's always a great way to actually show
Mhm.
people you can help them by actually helping them.
Cool. As we wrap up a little bit, we like to do some rapid fire. So, 5 words, 10 words or less. Adam likes to go on and on about lots of stuff. So let's just see if we can do some rapid fire. What's your favorite cold email subject line of all time?
My favorite cold email subject line. Hmm.
Thoughts?
Thoughts. Yeah. I would say, I'm actually gonna pull up my email real quick. I save all the best ones I get. I'm gonna pull up. Let's see what actually pops up. I would say the one I use the most, and you guys are probably gonna hate this. The one I use the most is the classic quick question or company question, and it's just because it's boring. I know it's overused, but it just works because it just builds a lot of curiosity. I think the worst subject lines are the ones where you give away that you're selling something because then people will just scroll past. But something that's just like 2, 3 words, very quick, is usually what we find to work the best. And I don't know why. I know that quick question is very overused, but it always ends up being one of
Listen,
our top performers.
if it works, it works. It's like I talk about when it comes to design, like whether I like it or not doesn't matter. Like as long as it works, that's all that matters. What AJ, what's the one thing you would fully ban from every cold email starting tomorrow?
Fully banned from every cold email.
Yep, can never
Um,
say or do it again.
but these are some good questions. These are juicy. Um, I would say definitely giving like a calendar link in the first email because to me it's just like that's just like coming on way too strong, right? It's like, hey, I just met you. By the way, here's a link. Now I want you to do work and fill out a form and book on my calendar, right?
Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you. My email was so good that you just want to give me 30 minutes of your time. Hard
Yeah,
pass.
exactly.
One daily habit that keeps you sharp as a founder.
Mm, they're a good one.
I think, yeah, for the first hour and a half of my day, I'm like completely off screens. So I'll wake up, meditate, usually work out, and then just chill for a few. I know there's a couple habits, but I'd say that the central habit is I'm just not on my phone. I'm not on my computer. I'm not opening email, going into reactive mode. I think just having that like hour and a half where I kind of take control of my day and I have some quiet. I notice whenever I don't do that, the quality of my day is like so different. So just having some peace and quiet in the morning and starting slow.
I love that. AJ, what's the biggest mistake you see in LinkedIn messaging? In mouse?
Yeah. Um, I think same thing the same thing as email where just people are sending links and PDFs too much. Like I'm like when I open my inbox and I just see a bunch of links to click on, it's just like I can't even read your message now, right? Um, and then also I think too long, like people kind of use LinkedIn more like they use text messaging. So if it's too long, then it definitely just seems too formal and too salesy.
Last one as we wrap this up. Favorite vacation destination.
Vacation destination, definitely Japan. Best food ever. I went there
Mm,
last year. I'm going there again this winter for snowboarding. So if you like skiing or snowboarding, it's epic for that. And yeah, Japan is like, I've been to a lot of countries, but I think Japan was just one of those places where I'm like, whoa, this is just so different. Like just the whole culture and the way the people are.
Yeah, it's Japan's on my list. I actually have a flight alert set. Dale loves it when I disappear for 2 or 3 weeks. So I have a flight alert set for next year to see. There was a period this year where you could get Miami to Tokyo for like $500. I
Oh
missed it.
wow.
Oh yeah, it was like dirt cheap. I'm very sad that I missed it. AJ Casada, Revenue Boost. Thank you so much for joining the show, for sharing all of your tips. Y'all go check out Revenue Boost. There are a lot of folks who claim to do outbound right. There are very few that can actually do outbound right. Based on what we've heard today, sounds like you know what you're doing. Excited to check it out and excited for the listeners to check it out as well.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me. Thanks a lot.